guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlotte, this is Charlotteshelves, and I aim to upload fortnightly bookish related content for you. I'm really excited today because I'm sharing with you the top 10 books of 2025 that I am looking forward to reading the most. So this is the new releases that are coming out this year, and I wanted to chat through a few of them with you because these seem too good not to share. These seem too good. If you've heard anything about them, do let me know as well, like if they're on your reading list too. 2025 is already looking to be a really good book year. So the 10 books that I have chosen, 2 are literary fiction, 3 are horror, 4 are thrillers, and 2 are more one is more rogue. The first book is Catabasis. I think I'm pronouncing that right, because in my head I want to say Catabasis, but it's by R.F. Kuang, and YouTube has those how to pronounce these certain types of words audio clips, and they are saying Catabasis, so I'm gonna go with that for now. This has not yet been released, and my understanding is that it's 2 academic rivals from Cambridge. This is quoted as saying they must travel to hell to rescue the soul of their advisor. Getting there was easy, surviving it and each other is a new thing entirely. This is being touted as 2025's most unexpected love story and is going to hell in a new novel. Oh, it's coming out August. Okay, so from what I was read about it, I also really love dark academia vibes, and one of the great things about Babel by R.F. Kuang was her world building, like her capabilities of building these really rich, immersive worlds are just so wonderful, and I love that fantasy aspect. So I'm wondering if this is also going to be dark academia, but with a little, with sort of an undertone of the fantasy. And I've not come across sort of romantic tropes or romantic narratives in R.F. Kuang's work so far, so this will be new and exciting. Next book I'm really excited to grab a copy of is called All the Water in the World by Erin Caffel. This is quoted as, "In the tradition of Station 11, a literary thriller set partly on the roof of New York's Museum of Natural History in a flooded future." Station 11 is a book that I judge, or is the marker against which I judge a lot of dystopian thrillers or sort of sci-fis or climate change type novels, because it was such an incredible book. I heard that this was likened in some way to that instantly piqued my interest. Station 11 was just bleak but poetic, and it was brutal but it was hopeful. Part of one of the narrative strands in Station 11 is that a group of touring actors are trying to preserve drama by performing Shakespeare plays and to keep that medium and that art form alive in the sort of post-collapse of civilization. And I feel like this is thematically similar in this work, in that there are a handful of people who are trying to preserve items from museums in New York City, which has since, due to climate change, flooded. And I thought that's such an interesting conversation to have, but also what pieces do you pick to save and preserve? It's interesting. When I was at uni, I did a 2-year internship alongside my studies in museum studies and rare books. And it was something that I really thought I was going to end up going into, like curating and that sort of thing. And I sort of did, and then sort of veered away. So I love this idea of, in this post-apocalyptic world, trying to curate what is valuable and what has meaning and how to save those art pieces or exhibition pieces. The British Library did have an exhibition on called the Treasures Exhibition, and they chose, I think, 100 pieces from the wealth of their collections and displayed them as a sort of testament to the written word and to storytelling and the book and the art form of the book itself. And I remember when going to see that and thinking, oh my goodness, how do you even begin to start picking just 100 pieces alone? Like that's crazy, bearing in mind how much they have in their vaults and in their storage. And that's a really interesting exhibition to go see, whether you love books or whether you are interested in museum studies too, like how curators make those choices, but also how they choose to display those exhibitions. I think that's so fascinating, and I liked that this book seemed to be in conversation with that too. It's also described as being, quote, "inspired by the stories of the curators in Iraq and Leningrad who worked to protect their collections from war. This is both a meditation on what we save from the collapse and an adventure story, with danger, storms, and a fight for survival." This next book is my #1 book that I'm most looking forward to this year. It is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. From what I have gleaned, it is set in a house for sort of wayward girls and women of disrepute. It's in the 70s, and these women and girls are sort of outcasts. I think they've either got pregnant or something has happened, and they essentially are being hidden away from their families, and they start to make friendships and things start to happen at this house, and there's hints of something going on at the institution, I think. And my impression was that these girls and women get together and they start to explore aspects of magic and the occult and obviously witchcraft, but I wasn't sure if there was something going on with the staff at this institution or something creepy and icky like that. I have also heard massively mixed reviews already. Like on Goodreads, it's got a phenomenal rating. It's 4+ stars right now. And this is potentially a spoiler. So if you are looking to read this book, skip forward a little bit. I'll pop a timestamp in, because I think what I want to talk about could potentially spoil the book. It's things that I've personally learned from watching some of the American horror book girlies that I like to follow on YouTube. One of the main criticisms that I've seen is that this book is actually nothing to do with witchcraft, which is really confusing, because the last book I read by Grady Hendrix, which was How to Sell a Haunted House, was pretty much the same. It did not lean into this idea of being something spooky and paranormal. It was about something entirely different, and I won't ruin that for you, but when you are given a blurb and sort of choice reviews that lean you to believe a book is one thing, when it's another thing, it doesn't mean the book is not well written. It just means perhaps that itch or that urge for what you want to read narratively isn't satisfied. And some of the criticisms I've seen is that the witchcraft aspect of this is like 5 to 10% of the actual book. Blurbs and reviews and like the cover artwork, it was giving me a lot of like Sabrina meets The Craft meets kind of Arthur Miller's The Crucible, but a little bit of like American Horror Story season 3 of Coven. Like that was the vibe that I was getting. And Grady Hendrix had posted a lot of books and like Easter eggs to do with what this book was about when he was writing it over on his Instagram. So I don't know if going in, I know not to expect it to be a kind of witchy horror book. I'll be able to adjust my expectations and then I'll probably enjoy it more, or whether I'll be disappointed that I just wanted some sort of straight up horror, maybe. I don't know. The next horror novel that I want to read in 2025 is The Unworthy by Augustina Bazterrica. She is the author of Tender is the Flesh, and we have probably all read that at this point, and it's touted as a literary horror, but also sort of dystopian, and I think that kind of matches what Tender is the Flesh was. This is also quoted as being about climate crisis, ideological extremism, and the, quote, tidal pull of our most violent, exploitative instincts. Another unforgettable novel from a master of feminist horror. I can't wait to pick this up, and I'm curious to see if this is going to have as much social commentary as her last book did. Like, it was very biting, and I'm kind of hoping this is gonna screw me up a little bit in the head, because the last book was really head screwy and uncomfortable, which is kind of what we enjoy in some of our horror reads. Appreciate I haven't told you much plot-wise, but that's because I'm also really trying to avoid it with this book. I did do the same thing, again, reading too much of Goodreads for Tender is the Flesh, so I'm trying not to read, and that is your homework for today. If you're interested in this book, go and have a look online and see if it's for you. Next up, we have The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. The cover for this alone is 10. Like, it's giving me Western horror epic. Like, on this cover, if I didn't know who he was, I would buy it based on looks alone. Like, I love the font, I love how they've done it. It just looks so cool. My understanding is that it's a historical horror set in the early 20th century. This one is new to me in the sense that this is actually also, I think, vampire horror, and I've not read him touch on that yet, and I haven't read a decent vampire horror book in so long, like in so long. This is quoted as being following a Lutheran priest who transcribes the life of a vampire who haunts the fields of the Blackfeet Reservation looking for justice. This is an American Indian revenge story written by one of the new masters of horrors, and I can't wait to read this. I'm so glad that he particularly is writing a vampire horror. I think it's going to be really dark and creepy. Next is The Man Made of Smoke by Alex North. Alex North wrote The Whisper Man, which was such an atmospheric, depressing, bleak, super creepy crime thriller. I think I gave it a solid 4.75. I might even go back and give it a 5, because it's one that has actually stuck with me, and I think that's a testament to a good thriller or a good sort of crime horror hybrid book. Like, if it lingers with you, I was 100% ready to inhabit another screwed up, disturbing, probably upsetting world for whatever he's created. I know that this is described as a serial killer thriller, and I haven't read a lot of those either. I tend to read more about true crime serial killer types. I don't read a lot of fictional ones. So I've also heard there's some psychological aspects to go with this book, as well as kind of being a horror crime hybrid. I hope it's half as good as The Whisper Man. If it's half as good as that, I'll be so fine. But I think this is going to be one of those books that I might not be able to read before bedtime, because they really get in your head, and then you are lying there in the dark, or after you've just turned your bedside light off and you're left with all these horrible creepy thoughts and then you have to try and go to sleep. Next we have With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. My understanding is that there is a lead female protagonist and something happened in her past, and she has boiled it down to being, say, 6 or 7 people that caused an awful event in her life, and something happened and she now wants revenge, and it's 10 years later or something like that, and she manages to contrive for all these people that she wants to either murder or exact revenge upon, they're all on the same train at the same time. There's obviously tension because she believes these people have wronged her, and she is set on getting retribution. However, before she can, I think, enact her own plans, someone on the train shows up dead. So not only is there now a murderer in the midst, but there is someone who is taking that chance for retribution from her. This is quoted as saying, Anna, which is the lead female protagonist, she is forced to hunt the killer in their midst while protecting the people she hates the most. In order to destroy her enemies, she must first save them, even though it means putting her own life at risk. I'm really giddy for this because I think this book is a reimagining of a really classic Agatha Christie. From what I've tentatively read, again, really trying not to spoil books for myself this year, Agatha Christie obviously wrote Murder on the Orient Express, and that is very locked room, contained space, forced proximity, thriller, crime, hybrid book. And I think Sager is reimagining this for like a modern audience, but also the new additional layers of there already being a murder on top of a murderer. And the forced proximity, I think this could be so excellently claustrophobic. It certainly is in the original Murder on the Orient Express, and I've never read a contemporary train mystery thriller horror. I haven't. Third to last is The Woman in Suite 11 by Ruth White. This is a follow-up to The Woman in Cabin 10. I remember reading this and thinking it was okay. I think I mentally kind of gave it like a B-/C, but when I checked on my Goodreads, apparently I only gave it 2 stars. I would probably retrospectively go back and give it a 3. It was fine. My favourite Ruth Ware book is One by One. That was a solid 4.5 for me. The premise for this book seems fairly similar to the first one, which is The Woman in Cabin 10. Our same lead female, Lo Blackwood, she is a travel journalist, and for the Woman in Suite 11, it seems like we meet her a little bit later in life. A few years have gone by since the events of the last book, and she has been invited to a luxury hotel by this sort of mystery billionaire type, and when she shows up to review it, because she still works in travel journalism, I think he has a mistress or someone that comes up to her right at the start of her stay and shares some sketchy information about this billionaire. She is instantly, I think, taken with this secret and wanting to find out more. And then this is, as a result of that, it's quoted as saying, what follows is a thrilling cat and mouse pursuit across Europe, forcing Lo to ask herself how much she's willing to sacrifice to save this woman and if she can even trust her. So this sounds like it's expanded a little bit, because with The Woman in Cabin 10, it was quite claustrophobic in the sense that everyone was contained on this yacht until it docked. So all the events were happening on this ship and then they couldn't leave. And I'm wondering, like, are they gonna be trapped in a hotel? It doesn't sound like it's gonna be. Or something is going on. Yeah, I really don't know what to make of it, but I will happily pick it up. And I think this comes out in August or sort of later in the summer. So that would be a quite nice, like, summer popcorn thriller type read. Second to last is The Crash by Frida McFadden. This is described as a gut-wrenching story of motherhood, survival, and twisted expectations. McFadden delivers a snowbound thriller that will chill you to the bone. After reading the third Housemaid book, I was converted to I didn't think there could be an author in which I held in lower esteem. I was very much like, I'm done. But time has passed, and maybe I'm sadomasochist, and maybe I'm ready to get hurt again. Like, it's so cold in England at the moment, like where I live. and I think this is already out. So could I be in the mood for a super trashy, bingeable popcorn thriller that's set in the middle of a blizzard, and it's from a sort of intense viewpoint of a vulnerable pregnant woman, and while it's cold here, like, would I like to read something like that? Yes, very possibly. Could I possibly enjoy it? And would it be nice to give McFadden another chance? She has written other thrillers that I did enjoy, and maybe because this is not in the Housemaid series, which I feel is getting bled dry, this might be for her to redeem herself. The final book is the romance book that I mentioned, and this is Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. This is touted as a sports college romance between a competitive diver and a female swimmer, and the female character seems to be more quiet, academic, studious, like keeps her head down, and the male lead seems to be more like a confident jock type. And I've heard there's like some interesting kinks and activities that I can't describe right now because this will get flagged, but I get the vibe that the tension, or much of the chemistry in the book, will be between the disparities of their personalities, like their differences. From early reviews of this, I've seen that people say it's got a great blend of drama, passion and pining, and I really enjoy a book where there's a lot of yearning. I don't think this is going to be particularly romantic. I feel like this is just going to be a book largely about hooking up, but I am not expecting this to be a 4 or 5 star, maybe not even a 3, but I've heard it's fun. So that's one that I'm definitely going to keep my eye out on. I might grab it on Kindle. And it will also be just a different genre to kind of break up a lot of the horror and thrillers and lit fic that I will be reading this year. If you have made it this far, thank you very much for watching. Let me know if any of those books are on your TBR for 2025. If there's any on this list that you've already managed to read or grab a copy of, do let me know if they're worth reading and what your thoughts were, because my TBR is so long, and if there are any on here that I'm really gonna waste my time with, just be a friend and tell me the truth. I can handle it. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and do let me know what books that you're hoping to get around to reading in 2025.